was called the other sider. You know, they call him Hebrew. You know what a Hebrew means? Ha-ivri. In Ivri, over, la'avor, cross over. So most people understand, okay, he's Abraham, the one who crossed from the Euphrates River, right? Or Jordan River, you know. That's not it. He drew a line against the world in terms of, let's say, one God. Everybody knows that. But it was more than that. More than just a one God. It was more like the God, he really pays attention to what you do. He's really involved in your life directly.
Abraham wasn't a Hebrew, was he?
He was the first Hebrew.
Yeah, the reason why I'm saying that is because the Muslims are from Abraham and you don't call them Hebrews.
Yeah, that's a good one.
No, I mean, seriously. So why aren't they Hebrews?
I don't know. Maybe they need to wake up and understand that they are Hebrews.
But the mother's
Maybe
line,
that would help the situation.
But Rabbi, the mother's line, Hagar was the mother of Ishmael.
Yeah, but he's still a descendant of, you know, the weird thing that they say, the funny thing that they say. You know the word anti-Semitic? Has everybody ever heard of that? Where does that come from? Okay? So it comes from, what?
Go ahead.
You were going to say something.
I just say Semite.
What is a Semite?
Yeah, it's a location, really, Semitic area.
It means shame. In Hebrew, it's anti-shemi. Anti-shemi. Anti-shame. Shame. Who was Shem? Do you know who Shem was? Shem was the son of Noah. Noah had 3 sons. Shem, Ham, and Yafet. Shem, like Abraham came from Shem. Okay? And then you have Ham, basically the people in, Africa. Right? And Yafet, they look at this like the Scandinavians, like northern. Basically, that's how the world is divided. It's an interesting way. So the interesting thing you say when an anti-Semite is somebody who's anti-shame. He's against shame or descendants of shame. The interesting thing is most of the people who are anti-Semites are Semites. Because they come from Esau. Esau came from Abraham.
Isaac.
He came from Isaac, who came from Abraham, who came from Shem. Okay, go figure. Okay? In any case, I'm not really sure where we left off, Chevre, on this. So I'm looking at page 10. Did we do this rule here on page 10, number 4? You see it? I'm not sure we did this, so please remind me if we didn't. Well, we're going to do it again. Because it's always good to do it again. Testing 1, 2, 3. Okay? This is an important thing. People always want to be on a level. They always want to ascribe to a certain level, especially a lot of people in the religious world do that. Okay? Well, can you buzz them?
Open.
Okay, cool. So a lot of times people will see like somebody who's on a high spiritual level and they want to go ahead and be like that on that level, right? Well, whoever it is, you want to be like that person. And maybe it's even not necessarily in the spiritual sense of it, but he's talking in the spiritual sense of it. Anybody who ever wants to be like this kind of be on.
Hello.
Oh, I just blew it. Okay, fine.
Is
Okay.
Alfred here?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so here we are. Wait 1 second. There you go.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
How's it going?
Hey, Alfred.
Okay, let's stop that
He's on
again.
that side.
Okay, so everybody, people in the world, we look up to people, right? And you want to be like them. And role models, let's say. Okay? Or people who you see as successful in the world. So the Baal Shem Tov warns us something very, very emphatic. Okay? Number 4, every individual must live and conduct himself according to the standards of his own spiritual level. Okay? You have to know what your spiritual level is. Okay? But you have to conduct yourself to your own spiritual level. You, your kocho, what you're capable of, know your limits, what you're incapable of. It doesn't mean we don't push ourselves. We do have to push ourselves. But people want to be like that guy. Okay? However, this is the amazing thing. When one tries to conduct his life by the standards of someone else's spiritual level, what do you think happens? He will fail on both standards. That means not only he won't be able to be on that other person's level, but his own potential he will not be able to express. He will fall short of expressing his own potential because he wants to be like that guy, this spiritual guy. In the spiritual world, this is very predominant. Okay? There are many spiritual masters who did unbelievable things. Okay? Shimon Bar Yochai. He says it right here. That is his example that he brings. And this is the deeper meaning of the sage's teaching. Many tried to emulate Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, but they were unsuccessful. Shimon Bar Yochai was the sage who lived in a cave for 13 years. Right? Do I have it right? 13 years, right? 12 years they were in, and then they had to go in for another year. 13 years, okay? And he, of course, he came out and he was an unbelievable sage, right? When they first came out, the way that the Talmud brings down of the cave, right? After 12 years, so they saw people work in the field. This one, harvesting and cutting and doing tying, and these guys, and they were like, "What are you guys doing? You guys are involved in this kind of mundane activity when you can be involved in, contemplating wisdom of the Torah?" And they looked at them with their eyes and burned them. Okay? Imagine such kind of a spiritual power, such like that. Okay? And then a voice came from heaven, came out and says, "This is not what the Torah is about, Bubby. You two, go back in the cave. You need to chill. Go chill." So they came out and they were a little bit more chill after another year. Except the son, Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, he was less chill. He would see people zap him, right? And then Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai would revive him, with some kind of act like that. It's like, "I told you not to do that again." Okay. There you go again, Elazar. Just stop. Hothead. Okay. So, but his level was an unbelievable level, and the teaching that he taught was an incredible, and Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, there was never a rainbow seen in the sky. No one ever saw a rainbow, and the rainbows are not good to see in the sky. You don't tell people, "I saw a rainbow." Do you know that's the law? Jewish law? Jewish law. You see a rainbow, you say a bracha. You have to say a bracha. Zocher bris. Because that was the sign that God told Noah that he's not going to bring a flood to the world. But it also has a second, more other message. Basically, you suck! Okay? Basically, he's telling mankind, you guys really don't deserve to live. I'm only preserving you because of a promise that I made to Noah many years ago. Okay? In other words, it's basically got a dual message to it. I'm preserving you, but not on your own merit. Not because you guys are doing great. Okay? Only because of what I promised Noah. Now, all his whole life, while Shimon Bar Yochai was alive, no one saw a rainbow. Meaning what? God saw Rabbi Shimon and he says, "Oh, the whole world for this guy. This guy is whoa. This guy is it." Right? So, everybody, even in this day and age, wants to be like that. You understand? Some people, they want to commit themselves to learning full time, right? But, there's no date. When he was in the cave, God made, they say it was a carob tree outside the cave. And some people say on Shabbos it turned into a date tree. Okay? Carob dates. Dates are better than carob. Carobs could be a little crunchy, hard to chew, whatever. They lived on carob, okay? And when there was a spring of water. That's how they lived for 13 years. Right? So some people want to be like Shimon Bar Yochai, be on his level, right? And learn fully, immerse themselves totally, but of course there's no carob trees growing outside. And if there was, they wouldn't be satisfied with that, okay? These days. They want the good life, and they want to be like Shimon Bar Yochai. But what happens? They want to try to be like that and study and learn. And what happens? They don't even get to be like Shimon Bar Yochai. Not only that, they lose their own potential. They don't even get to express their own potential, and they're miserable. Okay? They're miserable people. Okay? It's very sad to see. Okay? There were people who, like someone else that it brings down in the Talmud, that is also brought down, not just learn all day. Some people like learn all day, right? But some people, no, you have to work and learn. You have to have a trade, devote some time to it in the day in order to have what's called a parnasa, right? Do you leave it up to God to bring you the parnasa? Total faith in God, right? Trust in God. God will bring me the parnasa, and I'm just going to commit myself just to learn all day long, study. It's a noble thing. But if you don't have it inside of you, if you're not on that level inside of you, it backfires, right? So, of course, most people are not on that level. They don't have that level of trust within them to totally trust in God. And so therefore what happens? It backfires. They don't. Not only do they not end up being like Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, but they don't even get to express their own potential.
While he was in the cave, who taught him?
Elijah the prophet would come every day
really?
and teach them Torah. And then they would discuss among themselves, yes.
Oh my God.
Yeah, not too shabby, huh? Okay, so this means that though they themselves were not on Reb Shimon's spiritual level, they tried to live according to the high standard by which they saw him living. Reb Shimon, who was just studying all day, fireball, okay? And that is why they were unsuccessful. What? I'm on page 10, okay? It was once a great story. You know, here's the Baal Shem Tov, and he has a whole group of students, very huge, big scholars he was surrounded by, along with the simple folk. I mean, he had a following. And it was, you know, he was very revered by all of the students who were rabbis in other communities, big scholars in other communities, okay? And there was one scholar who wanted to also have a following like that. He wanted to be a Rebbe, right? So he goes to the Baal Shem Tov, and he's practicing what the Baal Shem Tov is practicing, looking, observing, and he's trying to do what the Baal Shem Tov does. He even goes so far as to do what they used to do in those days, like fasts. He did fasts, right? Speech fast, this fast, food fast. They even rolled in the snow. They would go and roll in the snow, freeze themselves, right? So in order to get this kind of influx of Ruach HaKodesh, and this person was doing it and practicing it, but, you know, he wasn't getting no following. And then finally, you know, he's about to leave. He's already committed to, you know, part ways with the Baal Shem Tov, and he threw in the towel finally. And the Baal Shem Tov, and he comes, you know, and he brings him out to the stable. Maybe I shared this with you, you know, and in the stable there's a horse there. And what happens then? He says, you know, see that horse there? You know, and it happens to be, you know, this horse, you see what he's doing? He rolls in the snow. He also eats hay, doesn't eat regular food, fasts, right? He does all those kind of things, right? In other words, it's not for you, right? In other words, don't think that just these outward activities of rolling in the snow or fasting is going to bring it. It's got to be an inner work, okay, in order to be on that level. But here, obviously, he's saying, don't try to be on someone else's level because you lose your own level. It's an unbelievable, profound thing. So the idea really is you have to be who you are, true to yourself, right? So there was a great story of how I was thinking about it, because I love to tell Baal Shem Tov stories while we're here. It's a great story, okay? How did he attract people? So a lot of ways how he did that. There was one way how there was a rabbi, and he had dissenters, people who were not into his. Don't forget, he's an upstart, according to everybody. He comes in and he's got a new way to serve God, right? You know, it's called being happy, okay? Right? It's called with joy and connection and inner connection and inner light, and, you know, and there was this other rabbi in another town, huge scholar, had a whole school. He had his own yeshiva, right? His name is Rabbi David Furkas. Rabbi David Furkas didn't like the Baal Shem Tov or any of his different ways and customs or whatever he was practicing. And the Baal Shem Tov, once he had a student who was by him for some time, and the student says, I want to progress in my learning and my studies. I want to go further. Where do I go? Where would you recommend me to go learn by? So the Baal Shem Tov says, go to David Furkas. And everybody knows that David Furkas doesn't like the Baal Shem Tov. And here's the Baal Shem Tov saying to one of his students, he says, go learn by David Furkas. The guy goes, are you serious, Rebbe? Yeah, go learn by David Furkas. So this Chassid, the student of the Baal Shem Tov, goes and he's studying by David Furkas. And there was one time that David Furkas is giving a whole class. And he says, tell me one of the wondrous things that your Rebbe does, right? Tell me something, right? Wondrous. And the guy really here, he's like called out in the middle of the class, right? And he goes, well, there is something peculiar that happens. When he's washing for bread, everybody who's there in the room goes to sleep. And then we only wake up when he says the blessing of Hamotzi Lechem Min Haaretz. Because we wash our hands before we eat bread, and then we go to make the bracha. So when Baal Shem Tov was washing hands, everybody who's present passes out. And then we wake up when we hear Hamotzi Lechem Min Haaretz. And then David Furkas says, I gotta see this. Really? Let's go. So he goes, of course, and he's going to go in the Baal Shem Tov, and he drinks 10 cups of coffee, right? And he naps before, and he makes sure he's rested. I am not going to fall asleep in this situation, right? And he's there, and all of a sudden the Baal Shem Tov washes his hands, and the guy falls asleep. And he dreams while he's sleeping. And in his dream, the main student of the Baal Shem Tov, he's called the Maggid of Mezrich. And in the dream, the Maggid asked the Baal Shem Tov, he says, what's your kavana, special intentions, when you're washing your hands? And the Baal Shem Tov said was his special intentions is when he's washing his hands. Certain names or contemplates. And the Maggid says, no, that's not the correct explanation. It should be such and such and such and such. It should be something different. He argues with the Baal Shem Tov. So the Baal Shem Tov says to the Maggid, he says, well, let's go ask the Arizal. The Arizal is a 16th century Kabbalist, lived hundreds of years, but this is all a dream, right? So he says to the Maggid, let's go ask the Ari who is the master Kabbalist, who everybody goes to, and if whatever his word, usually his word, okay? So they both hear, and here they are in front of the Ari. The Baal Shem Tov presents his case. The Maggid presents his case of what the special intention should be of Al Natilas Yadayim. And the Arizal, after hearing both, he says the Baal Shem Tov is correct. And all of a sudden, here's David Furkas, flashback. He wakes up from the dream hearing Hamotzi Lechem Min Haaretz. And then, of course, the Baal Shem Tov takes a bite of the bread and he passes it around. Right? And then while everybody takes their bite of bread, the Maggid there says, what's your contention? What's your kavanot what's your intention of the Natilas Yadayim? Right? So the Baal Shem Tov says this is the special intention, and the Maggid says no, it's not like that at all. It should be this and this and this and this. So the Baal Shem Tov says, listen, I asked the Arizal, and this guy here, he points to David Furkas. He'll testify because he was there, and the Arizal says that I'm right. So here's David Furkas going, I'm good. Okay? So then, of course, he became a student. So the Baal Shem Tov was able to attract students in that way. Okay? Just to give you that. But of course, some students, they felt that rolling in snow and fasting was going to get them on the level, and it doesn't. It doesn't get you on the level. As a matter of fact, the Baal Shem Tov, he outlawed fasting. Okay? Kind of not outlawed it, but basically says we don't need to do that anymore for a tikkun. For our rectification, we don't hold by fasting anymore, right? I learned that in the yeshiva, when somebody, it wasn't from the Baal Shem Tov, other people say, you have to ask a rabbi before you just go ahead and fast, right? A person can't just want to just commit himself and try to be Mr. Holy. So he, instead, you're going to love this one. And this is going to be the most challenging thing of all. Okay? If you're ready for it. So the Baal Shem Tov, when he was explaining that, fasting and all this self-mortification, it's not what we do anymore. To achieve rectification, to achieve our inner essence of who we're supposed to express, right? So he says, rather, what you have to do is focus on 3 loves. 3 loves. I bet you can guess what they are, okay? Love of God, of course, so deep, right? Love of Torah, so beautiful. And the third one, love of Israel, love of the Jewish people, right? Who is the most challenged? Ooh, everybody knows, right? But let's not talk about it, okay? So the idea here is really just to inculcate in the deep places of our hearts just the love of God, Torah, and the Jewish people. Every Jew is so sweet. Every Jew so holy, right? So in any case, furthermore, the sages teach, continuing on the top of page 11, furthermore, the sages teach us that the truth is God's seal. Interesting. The truth, emet, that's the chatima of God. Amazing, isn't it, when you think about it? And the truth is truth is the only gateway to God. I like to tweak the word truth, emet. As we know, the word emet is the first, middle, and last letter. But I use the word sincerity. Sincerity, to be sincere. Okay? When you're sincere, you're truthful, correct? Pretty much, right? To be really sincere. To have a sincere relationship with God, that is the gateway. Okay? Honest with yourself. Okay? If one is not living truthfully with oneself, one cannot be living with God. Unbelievable. It's a big, huge thing of one of the 6 shortcuts to happiness. Okay? The 6 shortcuts to happiness, I won't go over all of them, but one of them is integrity. Okay? Meaning, don't say yes when you really should be saying no. Okay? Right? That's a big thing. People tend to do that. Right? Don't say yes when inside you say no. Right? You have to be truthful to yourself. Okay? I forgot the word that has integrity, could be it, but there's more. Authenticity. To be authentic. That is the seal of God. And if a person is not authentic with oneself, one cannot be living with God. Oh, unbelievable. You have to shut off all of the falsehood. Okay? Let go of all of the sheker, the things that really don't serve you well. Avram Avinu, Abraham. Amazing. If you read, it was in, I forget which parsha we're in Vayera. It's a great word in Vayera. It says, Vayera elav Hashem. Hashem appeared to Abraham when Abraham was sitting at the entrance of the tent. After he did circumcision, he circumcised himself. 3 days later, he's sitting at the tent, hoping some guests will come by. Hashem, of course, makes it real hot. And it says, Vayera elav Hashem. Hashem appeared to him. Now, the 11th century commentator Rashi brings down to do the mitzvah of what we call Bikur Cholim, visiting the sick. But there's other commentators who say he just come to hang out. Just to hang. Every single time before God appeared to Abraham, it was for some directive or to tell him something. Here, can you imagine? Just to hang. You ever like with people just to hang, right? Do we hang anymore? Do people hang anymore? Well, some people hang, right? But here God just comes to hang out. And Abraham is just hanging out with God, right? Now, the Slonim Rebbe brings down that the reason why was because Abraham did the circumcision. He removed some, what we call psolet. Psolet is refuse, something that was not a necessary item. We'll call it an untruth. Okay? The klipa, a shell, a husk. The circumcision, that little piece of foreskin, is exactly what it is. Okay? I know some foreskins that are still walking around. Okay. Have to invent some different type of circumcision. But in any case, well, thank God I haven't met any recently. In any case, the idea here is once he shed an untruth from himself, psolis, something that wasn't serving him, then Hashem can come and hang. And the same way is the same rule for all of us in terms of the here and now. That when we shed our untruths, right, then Hashem is instantly just hanging with us. When we're ever sincere, if we ever connect to the point of authenticity and sincerity within us, then we are hanging out with God. Okay? And you can't do it if you're still holding on to stuff. Okay? And finally, since no one can truly grasp the spiritual level of another person, following the unique behavior of another person can be nothing more than mimicking his conduct and is doomed to failure, as the Baal Shem Tov says here. In other words, mimicking someone else, being like a puppet, and it happens a lot. Amazing. I know in my world, where I came from, everybody was imitating the Rosh Hashiva, thinking they were the Rosh Hashiva. Rosh Hashiva is head of the academy. My Rosh Hashiva, blessed memory, is the Chusya Yagin Elaine, the most unbelievable, charismatic, dynamic individual, very strong and powerful man. He had little mannerisms that people started to imitate, such as his glasses would constantly fall, and he was always correcting his glasses like this. And he was always taking the payas and pushing it back. So he was going like this a lot. So everybody we'd find in the yeshiva was, okay? And then, of course, the real doofuses were talking like him, too. But that was kind of obvious. Okay? Right? But it's only a forgery. You have to be who you are. Be true to yourself. That's what the Baal Shem Tov is teaching. Don't try to be like someone else. You have to be who you are. Your own unique expression, always. And you know, the interesting thing is, I'm going to tell you another great story. Okay? That the Baal Shem Tov was traveling with his grandson, the Degel Machane Ephraim. He became a big rabbi later on. He's traveling with his grandson. And they wandered off to a place that it was not very safe for them to be in. They wandered on to the land of some baron. This land baron had a special custom. He told all of his servants, anybody who comes into my property, you get your stick, you go out, and you beat them. That was it. So obviously, what happened? Comes the wagon, and it ends up making a wrong turn, and here it is, right in the baron's territory, and here, all the servants were. If this one's all of a sudden he's cutting flowers, or trimming trees, or this one's on the horse. They just grab their sticks and they're all converging onto the carriage where the Baal Shem Tov was. And so, in order to save, the grandson says, "He's a healer. Don't hurt us. He's a healer." And they go, "Oh, well, Baruch Hashem." They don't say Baruch Hashem. Well, it happens to be our master is sick. We need you. It's great. We need a doctor. So they bring in the Baal Shem Tov to the baron who's sick. He's not so old. Okay? And the Baal Shem Tov, he's really great with pulses, and he sees the pulse, and he's really great with this stuff. And he tells the guy, you have to stop being a playboy. Okay? You're messing around way too much, and this is what's causing your health. This is what's causing your health to fail. Right? And what does this playboy do? Yes, I think his name was Hugh Hefner. Okay? And what is he doing as he's lying in bed? He says, Rabbi, this is what we do. This is what I do. We're all men here, right? You also got the same drives, don't you? Mess around. So the Baal Shem Tov says, it's already beyond me in years. So he treats the baron, and they're leaving, and on their way out, So the grandson, the Degel, he goes, Grandpa, why didn't you tell him the truth? Tell him you're Jewish, and Jews don't do this kind of thing. It's just not the Jewish way. And his answer was so powerful. He says, a Jew cannot even explain to another Jew what a Jew is. Okay? In other words, you expect me to explain it to a Gentile what a Jew is? I can't even explain to you what a Jew is. I'm going to explain it to him. It's an unbelievable thing when you think, what does that mean? A Jew cannot explain to another Jew what a Jew is? It's because, you know why? We're always on a level. Our relationship with God in the internal part is always on a different level than anybody else. You have your relationship, I have my relationship. I'm going to explain my relationship of God to you. It's not going to work. I couldn't put it into words. If I would really touch the point, I wouldn't be able to explain it. When I went to Uman on Rosh Hashanah, right? Uman, Rosh Hashanah is where Rabbi Nachman's grave is, right? Every year there's like another 20,000 going there. Now they've got hotels. Now it's going to be like, West Palm Beach or something like that. I don't know. I've never been to West Palm Beach. Came to me. But it's huge. And so people go, wow, was it? We went to Uman, Rabbi Nachman, right? And I tried to explain it, but I in the end, I finally realized I can't. As a matter of fact, that's the first Sikha conversation, Rabbi Nachman, that he explains that you can't really, if you really touch your relationship with God, it can't be explained to another. You got to be on your level. That's the Torah here, okay? After we did this, I think we did this before. Why didn't you tell me, Barbara?
Because it was good to hear.
It's good to hear it again. Okay, fine. Okay, so let's skip ahead. Okay? This is something really great, which is going to disturb you. If you go to page 15. I know we didn't do this one. And this is going to be great because this is really a recap on what we did last week. Okay? Yeah. Dabble a little bit. Okay? The Spirit of God hovered above the surface of the water. Number 13. The Spirit of God hovered above the surface of the water. This is a verse in Genesis, right? The first verse in Genesis basically says, Bereshit bara Elokim et hashamayim et haaretz, in the beginning of God's creating of the heavens and the earth. Right? Va'aretz ha'isa tohu v'vohu, the earth was astonishingly empty. V'choshech al pnei tehom, there was darkness covering the face of the deep. And then the Spirit of God hovered over the face of the water. Interesting, okay? Very dynamic. Those first few, I'm telling you, they're so packed. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, who we mentioned earlier, just on the one word Bereshit has 70 chapters. It's called Tikkunei Zohar. One book on whole book, and it's not an easy book. It's not a quick reading, okay? It's like every day I do a page. Every day I try to do a page of it, okay, with the commentary. It's so unbelievably deep. This one book. It's like we call it the extract of the Zohar. The Zohar is like many volumes covering the esoteric meaning of the Bible, and the extract of that is Tikkunei Zohar. So like one drop will do you, man. One drop, okay. But in any case, lots goes into these first verses of Genesis. But of course, the Baal Shem Tov wants to take it to a place where it's relevant for us. All the time he's going to tell us, and he's going to bring us to verses that make it relevant for us. So here, the Spirit of God refers to the human soul. Okay? Here, look at the note there. The Midrash says that this phrase refers to the spirit of Adam and to the spirit of Mashiach. Actually, Adam, the first man, encompasses all mankind. And his name is seen as the acronym of Adam, David, and Mashiach. Have you ever seen that before? In other words, if you spell Adam is spelled with 3 letters, Aleph, Dalet, and Mem. Now, Aleph stands for Adam. The Dalet of Adam, the middle letter, stands for David. And the last letter, Mem, stands for Mashiach. In other words, Adam is really the all-encompassing soul of all of us. We're all included in this one, we'll call it big, I guess, a huge conglomerate or collective soul of all of us is all included in Adam. Okay? Why David? Because Adam was supposed to live 1,000 years, and he gave 70 years of his life. Adam prayed that King David would live, because King David was supposed to be a stillborn. But he saw that if King David would live, it would be an unbelievable influence on the Jewish people, and it was. So Adam only lived, instead of 1,000, he lived 930 years, not 1,000. So in any case, the Spirit of God refers to the human soul, which must hover over the surface of the water, which refers to the Torah. And then God said, after that, there shall be light. Which means that God will then enlighten the person with the holy light of the Torah. In other words, Sefer Safer and Sipur, okay? Which means there's the text, there's a book, there's a scroll. Here you are. You're going to now accept upon yourself to learn some Torah every day, even if it takes 2 minutes, right? Open up a book, any book, look at it, and when you're looking at that holy Torah book, or a Musar book, or whatever book, what happens here? An interesting thing. Look what he's saying. The Spirit of God refers to your human soul, and that hovers over the face of the water, which refers to the Torah, the scroll. And so that what happens then there shall be light. In other words, then there'll be enlightenment. Okay? The idea here is, in this one verse, when you approach any Torah book, like you're doing right now, okay, you are actually an enactment of this verse, not the first verse, in Bereshit. You become the Spirit of God hovering over the face of the waters, and then what happens? God said, let there be light. Just to give you another idea, in terms of, let's say, because you guys, you're still bewildered, but I'm going to now take you another step in terms of what the Torah is. Besides, it's like an alphabet soup of letters in the sky, okay? Random energies, okay? But, of course, you could look at it as potential, okay? Always. You know, they're coming out with all of the tests that they're doing, and they came out with this a long time ago, that, you know, when they're going to look at subatomic particles, atomic particles and everything, they notice that their own relativity comes into play. In other words, based on what their projection is of the outcome, the atoms will almost do a dance, knowing the thoughts of the observer. The observer's got to come and observe the atom in such conditions, and it seems like the atom dances according to the, anticipation of the observer. Well, that's why, yes, it's kind of strange. Okay? Because it's called relativity. Everything is relative. Okay? That's just what they've discovered. In other words, things have a way that there could be, that exists in this very moment right now, infinite potentials of expression for all of us. We can express this way, we can express that way. You could raise your eyebrow, you can raise one eyebrow. You can do many things. Okay? A lot of outcomes could come out, right? But once you make a decision, I'm going to go to Starbucks instead of Randall's, right? So then every single thing converges into that reality or that experience once you make a decision. That's a very coarse example, okay? But I'm telling you, a lot of time, every single thing is really acting in that way. In other words, there's many potentials that could be expressed. But when you make a decision, obviously, you're focusing in it. But before you focused your potential to express it this way, there were a multitude of ways that it could be expressed. But it's waiting for you to make a decision. Okay? So in any case, the idea here is just to understand the Torah is the blueprint of creation. Okay? Just to go back into that alphabet soup in the sky of randomness. Okay? But it's not like a blueprint that when you make the house, you put the blueprint on the shelf. Okay? It's much different than that. Okay? And the way that Rabbi Akiva Tatz puts it, very bizarre, okay, is he uses the idea of the projector, the film, and the screen. Now, we all familiar with movies in those days? Okay, right? Sometimes I would have to even, In the home movies, we had the reels. We'd have to put it through. I remember. We had those, right? And the idea here is, of course, we see the screen. There's the projector, and then there's the film. So we say that the projector is the light of God. It's undifferentiated light. It's just white light. When you put the screen in front, that is the Torah. Okay? And then whatever is in the Torah, it projects onto the screen. And the world is the screen. Now, it's a very dynamic screen because it's three-dimensional, it's space, it's time, and it's consciousness. Three things all in one, okay? But the dynamic really is, so in other words, everything is playing, everything is in the Torah. Every single thing is rooted in the Torah. And I said that the Torah is still being written. That means as we act and move, so there are the story is still being told, okay? The question is, how do you want to tell the story, okay? But just now, to go back here, in terms of our play, and let there be light. We want to be illuminated, okay? And so this unbelievable dynamic happens when you approach a text, a holy text. When you approach a holy text with your soul, you become the Spirit of God hovering over the face of the waters. The Torah is like water. And then all of a sudden, and God said, let there be light, okay? This, of course, helps everybody to pull into the Torah, okay, in such a way that our goal here in life is to be a light unto the nations. Let there be light, okay? You can't do it without Torah.
At the rest of that note, at the rest of the footnote, in the purpose of creation, let there be light is relevant to each and every one of us. Each of us can bring more light into our lives and automatically into the world and be part of the Mashiach, just like you said.
By connecting to God through His Torah. Okay?
That's what you were saying.
It's all about our potential and all about our unique expression that no one else could do. Okay? All right. Let's go. Next one. 14. We're doing good here. Okay? At least we know where we are. Hopefully I'm not repeating myself. Right? Did we do this one yet? No? Good. 14. Okay. Doubt around midnight. What's this verse referring to? It's a verse in Exodus. Okay? It's an interesting idea here. Okay? Ha. Moshe Rabbeinu, of course, goes to Paro in the 10th plague. And he's going to tell Paro in the court about the killing of the firstborn, the death of the firstborn. But he uses the term not bechatzot halayla, but he changes the language and he says around midnight. In other words, around midnight it's going to happen. Okay, there'll be you can do the Charlton Heston imitation. There'll be a cry in Egypt throughout the land such as never before, or something like that. Forgot, I don't know the words. Okay, something dramatic. Okay, but anyways, he tells them he says around midnight. And all of the commentators go nuts over this. Like, why did you do that? God is exact. So Rashi brings down the classic commentary. He says, Moshe Rabbeinu said around midnight was because, of course, he's going to be exact. Of course, God is going to be exact. But you know what? It's a really weird thing. The astrologers and hieroglyphic experts, they make their calculations when midnight is. This is very pertinent to now, as you're going to see. And so, according to their calculations, so if it happened, the plague starts at midnight, but it wasn't according to their calculation, they would say Moshe's a liar, the whole thing's false, that's it, let's move to impeachment. Okay? Okay? Right? Right? It was 1 second off, according to their calculation, Moshe's a liar, the whole thing's off. Right? He's not fit to be the leader. Okay? Right? But here he's going to bring another little thing, okay? Because we have to understand the relevance for us in terms of our soul connection in the here and now. Everything the Baal Shem Tov does, he says, the entire Torah has its relevance for us in the here and now, okay? So doubt can be compared to midnight, which is the exact point of time separating the first half of the night from the second. Interesting. Why would that be doubt? Be compared to midnight? Okay? I guess because maybe in a person's life he's in a crossroads. Not necessarily a big crossroads. We're all making decisions all the time. Should I go to Uncle Lou's for Thanksgiving or not? Or whatever, right? Such decisions, right? Sometimes they're very heavy decisions. Should we invest in this or not? And it could be a huge investment, right? Should I invest time into this person or not? Right? Is it worth it? What's going to be? Doubts come up all the time in our lives. Won't you say? Yes? Nothing's absolutely clear, right? Okay, so doubt can be compared to midnight, the exact point of separating the first half of the night from the second. By the same token, when a person is in doubt, he sees opportunities and options in both directions. Then I, God, will go out in the midst of Egypt. Okay? That's what he says. What does that mean? In the midst of that person's difficulties to enlighten him. This is an idea that I think we did discuss a little bit before. Okay? Decisions, right? And we did touch earlier, okay? That sometimes a person is in doubt. We actually covered this, I think, in number 5. Oh, we didn't do this, number 5. Okay. Let's go back to page 12, and then we're going to come back to this. You see page 12, the next paragraph? Not number 6 with the top of page 12, but where the paragraph is starting. And the thing which is too hard, come to me. Once again, we're going to shoot to another place in the Chumash, where Moshe Rabbeinu is delegating. He gets other people to lead, officers of hundreds, right? Officers of thousands, right? And of course, each one of these officers are going to be going and judging in their local districts. But he tells them, and the thing which is too hard, come to me. So the Baal Shem Tov explained in the name of the Ramban, who's Nachmanides, that he commanded to his son, if you are doubtful in something, whether to do it or not. Okay? So in other words, here we're entering into any case. In other words, the Ramban is saying, forget about the verse for now. Let's just get into a scenario. Here's Nachmanides. He wants to tell something his son. He wants to give his son some advice. That if you're in a certain situation in a crossroads and you have a doubt about anything, any doubt, okay? Whether to do something or not. That's what it means by in the verse, if any case is too difficult for you, bring it to me. So the Baal Shem Tov taught in the name of the Ramban, who advised his son the following. Whenever there are various possible options of how to go about doing something, and you are in doubt as to which is the best way, or if you are in doubt whether or not doing it is at all God's will, in which case it should be done, or it is against God's will, in which case it should not, you must first unattach yourself from all personal gain or honor you might receive from this action, and only then can you objectively weigh the options. For anything from which one derives any personal gain, one will search to find some way to permit even the forbidden. Okay, this is what we call negias. It's obvious. The biggest place that we saw this was there was a certain article written by Rabbi Elchanan Wasserman. He was the main student of the Chavetz Chaim. He wrote a great article in one of the end of his books, Kubitz Ha'aros, and he explains that really to believe in God is something that it's ingrained. It's something obvious a person should come to believe in God. Especially in those days where if you just look up to the sky, there weren't so many lights in the city, and you see the stars, and you're awestruck. So it's an obvious kind of thing. Even the bushman in Africa should have an understanding of God. Should have some kind of belief that there is a creator. I How come there are atheists in the world? Philosophers, big people, and they write a lot of books, right? A lot of books. How can it be? Why? How can it be? So he says quite simply, there's a verse in the Torah that says you're not allowed to take a bribe. A judge is not allowed to take a bribe, right? Lo tikach shochad ki shochad ma'aver elei einetz chachamim. Because bribery blinds the eyes of the wise man. Okay? Simply put, of course, if a guy is going to be a judge and he gets a bribe, of course he's not going to be impartial. Of course he's not going to be objective. Okay? And so he goes a step further. He says all of the pleasures that we get in this world, physical or even spiritual or honor, they are all bribes. So therefore, anything of the nature of the pleasures that we get, they are influencing a person, and they crawl right up to his brain, and then what happens? He rationalizes God right out of the picture. He'll come up with philosophies, he'll spin unbelievable stuff and proofs and things like that there is no God. Because what? Because he wants to follow his desires. Okay? So really, deep inside, all of these big philosophers who say there is no God, all these non-believers, these atheists, the real reason is, according to him, is that they're taking bribes. They really just want to pursue their desires and lusts. And the only way to do that is to knock God out of the picture. Because if God's in the picture, they can't play. Okay? So they have to rationalize God out of the picture so they can play. It's a Lord of the Flies type of thing. Everybody know the story of the Lord of the Flies? Great story. Okay? Best metaphor ever. Can't wait till the Coast Guard comes on the beach in this world, in this planet. Okay? Which hopefully very soon, right? In any case, so if a person here, he's in doubt whether to do something or not, he has to do a meditative exercise inside of himself to try to remove any kind of pleasure he will gain or honor. Try to imagine you're not getting any honor, any recognition, not even a thank you. Okay? We don't do things for a thank you. When we do kindness, do we do it for a thank you? What happens if we don't get the thank you? He didn't thank me. Right? That means you had something. Right? If the person, you did them a favor and they didn't thank you, a favor is a favor. The Baal Shem Tov brings down, I want to always interject this, such a good thing. It's so deep. The highest thing a person can do in the world is to do someone a favor. Think about that. When you think about it, the idea is very, very dynamic and is very, very deep. Why is that the highest thing in the world? To do someone a favor? Why is that so high? What do you think?
Selfless.
Yes, you're not usually when you do a favor, except unless you're the Godfather. We might call upon you one day to do us a favor. Right?
Good job.
Very good.
Unless you're the Godfather, you do someone a favor, you don't expect anything back. It's a simple thing. Can you do me a favor? Just hand me that piano. Whatever. Pass me that. Do this. Bring this over there. Do this. You're not thinking. You're done. 10 minutes later, it's been done. It's done. You don't even remember it. Right? Let alone, hey man, I took that umbrella, returned it for you, 10 years later, you're not recalling a favor like that. Okay? You don't even remember the high because you're not expecting anything in return. You're not going to get anything back. So he says here, the eighth is, imagine, you're not going to get any pleasure. You're not going to get any honor, no respect from it. Only then will you be able to at least try, you got to try, to get a objective outlook on the situation, to do this or to do that. Okay? Because usually if you do this, you're going to get honor. If I don't do this, I won't get honor. We're always, we're always working, right? Our brains are always configuring, right? So if one searches out, right, that he doesn't get anything, so then he's objective. But after doing as said, God will guide you to the truth. And you can feel secure that you're doing the right thing. Okay? In other words, try to remove... There was a great story, Rabbi Yisrael Salanter. He's the head of the Musar movement. Right? Head rabbi. Really big. Really big. He was the one, actually. There was a Yom Kippur there was typhoid fever going around. And he was the leader of the generation, says everybody's got to eat on Yom Kippur because you can't be weak. What? It was like stunning. He made a decree, Yom Kippur people got to eat because you need to maintain your strength because we can't afford everybody to get sick. We can't afford it. And of course the rabbis got together and they go, you got to explain this to us. Yom Kippur to eat? Hello. So all the rabbis got together, right? And they were waiting for him to come in and give an explanation of why he felt that this was right. Instead, what did he do? He didn't do that. What did he do? He gave the most complicated discourse of the most complicated part of the oral law. He wubbed and spun, he spun, he wove, and boom. He razzle-dazzled. Okay? He did a total razzle-dazzle on one of the most complicated elements of sections of the Torah that nobody could figure out. Okay? And then after he finished his discourse, he just walked away and left everybody like, okay, I guess he's a head rabbi and we got to listen to him. Okay? Rabbi Yisrael Salanter, when he was younger, he was in yeshiva, he loved smoking cigarettes. Okay? He loved smoking cigarettes. And here he is in his dorms with the other buddies, right? Anyone got a cigarette? No one had a cigarette. He said, wow, I really want a cigarette. Any place open now? It's nighttime. Oh, there's no place. The only place open is like Mamish across town, man. You got to go all the way across town. It's the only place that's really open now, and you could be able to get a cigarette. So here he is lying in bed. He says, wow. He's thinking among himself. He's saying, wow, if I go there to go get a cigarette, I'm a Baal Taiva. That means I'm just going after lusts, right? And if I don't go, that means I'm just lazy. It's bad character traits to be lazy. So what did he do? He walked all the way over there and didn't buy the cigarettes and then walked back. Okay? Unbelievable. Right? Okay? What a move. Okay? So, in any case, the idea here is you have to make an objective decision. You have to remove the pleasure, remove the honor, or whatever it is, and then hopefully God will guide you in a way that you could be objective. This then is the meaning of the verse, if any case is too difficult for you. In other words, Moshe was instructing the leaders, okay, saying like, really he was instructing the judges of officers of tens, hundreds, fifties, okay? And he's saying, if it's too difficult for you, bring to me, but really he's saying something to every soul. That is, you don't know how or whether at all to do something, let's say. The doubt arises, if you look at the exact language is, if any case is too difficult, really, the idea here is, let me just get it here, number 6, I have to get it in the Hebrew because it's just much more better, okay? The Hebrew, you can figure it out better, okay? So he says here, V'hadavar asher yikshe mikem. That's the literal language. Okay, the literal language is V'hadavar asher yikshe, the thing that was difficult, mikem, from you. In other words, if you have a difficulty with anything, a doubt, mikem, it is from you. Your doubt, your lack of clarity is coming because you got mishterine stuff going on. You're being pulled in different directions because of the evil inclination, because of the lust, or whatever you're going to get out of it. The thing that is difficult, if something is difficult, the difficulty is coming from you. It's not coming from the situation. So you don't know how to do it, you know whether to do this, whether not to do it. The suffix is born from you. Sheyesh bo hanaschem, because you have your own personal gain involved. Al kain tistalku midavar zeh. Therefore, You have to remove any pleasure or honor. V'tikravun elai, and you have to bring it close to me. What is that kavana? The intention is shieh l'shem shamayim. It has to be for the sake of heaven without any kind of ulterior motive or pleasure. I'm kind of reading it from the Hebrew because it's more rich. Az, and then, only then, ushmativ, I will hear it. That's the rest of the verse. Etain lo havana eich itnaheg. I will give you the understanding of how to behave. In other words, you have to remove all personal gain, and then what happens is God is going to put it in your mind. There was a great story of Rabbi Nachman Harodenka. I think he was the grandfather of Rabbi Nachman. Okay, and we'll end with this. Sorry to go a little bit late. It's a great story, though. Whoa, this is a great story. He's traveling on a boat. They ran out of food. They ran out of provisions. Man, they've been starving. I'm talking about a couple of days. They finally end up in Istanbul or some Arab city. Right? The only way, there's no Jews. An Arab takes him in to feed him. Right? And the guy hasn't eaten in a long time. And he washes and he gives him bread. Oh, man. Starving. Right? He washes his hands for bread. And then all Natilas Yadayim, right? No one falls asleep. Okay? And then he's about to make the blessing on the Hamotzi, and then suddenly a verse pops into his head. Do not eat the bread of the miserly, for his heart is not with you. It's of Proverbs. In Proverbs, I think 21. Chapter 21. Okay? For as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. In other words, watch out for eating the food of somebody who's miserly. In other words, outwardly he's nice to you, but inside he is not with you. Don't eat that. So all of a sudden he got this idea in his head, oh shoot, I shouldn't be eating this. And he's stuck. He's waiting. He's in limbo. It's like, no. Right? And like he says he doesn't know what to do. So he kind of relaxes for a moment, and he wants to remove all pleasures or anything that he gets for himself to do the right thing. He wants to do the right thing, okay? The right thing. He's more interested in doing the right thing no matter what. And he says, oh, Hashem. And then all of a sudden, another verse pops into his head. These guys were good with verses, okay? We might not be so. But the verse was basically saying that the verse was from a story from Elijah the prophet. He had to run away from the king, because the king, I think Achav, was seeking to kill him, and he had to hide in a cave. And God had said, I'm instructing the ravens to bring you food. And the ravens brought him food. So the word for raven is arev. Arev. So an arev is the same thing as Arab. So in other words, he heard the second verse come into his mind. I instructed the Aravim to bring you food. In other words, the Aravim is Aravim Baruch Hashem. Then he made the Hamotzi and he ate. The idea really here is you got to be very aware of the thoughts in your mind. But if you stick it out and every single one of your actions is for the sake of God, right? The Shem Shemaim, remove your personal pleasures, right? So then Hashem will help you and make your way successful. We'll stop here.